all season. I think the only place you can start with the Big 12 preview is with the defending Big 12 champions and the talk of the college football world by and large for the last 3-4 months. It's the Texas Tech Red Raiders. We recently found out they won't have what they thought was going to be their stud quarterback, their answer to last year's problems in the college football playoff, and Brendan Sorsby. He has essentially taken himself out of college football. There was just too much noise, too much criticism, too much backlash to that local judge's decision to let him play. So he decided he was going to go try to get into the NFL supplemental draft. The supplemental draft ended up getting canceled. So he is now resigned to basically taking the year off, and he'll enter the regular NFL draft next year. It's a major hit to Texas Tech. They've got a really good roster, and they've got a good coach. They've spent a ton of money kind of building the infrastructure there in Lubbock. And Brendan Sorsby was going to be the connectivity piece, I think, that would have brought it all together. Now they're back to Will Hammond, who played a little bit for them last year. They potentially face much of the same challenges that they had last year when Baron Morton was under center and they got shut out to end their season against Oregon down in Miami in the college football playoff quarterfinal. So, guys, I read quite a bit about Texas Tech this week. I like a lot of what I'm hearing and reading, but I'm not ready to crown them as repeat champions. Ryan, I'm going to come to you here first. What have you made of what you've learned about Texas Tech in the last couple weeks, and where do you see kind of strengths and weaknesses for this team entering 2026, 2027?
I think they definitely have a very talented roster. I don't think you can argue that. They're bringing in people, they're bringing in talented guys in the transfer portal. I think they had 8 guys that were rated 4 stars in the portal. I'd say 6, so that was the highest of any Big 12 team I saw. So they're doing what they need to do to bring in the talent. But with the question at QB, it's just so hard for me to get behind them as just like the favorite to win the conference. It's the Big 12. You almost have to expect chaos. And I was absolutely shocked to see that they're plus 105 to win the Big 12 championship. You would think they have a stud quarterback, or they're Ohio State and they're just an absolute program. They've done it once. They didn't look super impressive to me. And with the questions they have at quarterback, with Will Hammond coming back from ACL, I think it's crazy. Do I think they're going to be a good team? I definitely do. I think they have a ton of talent, especially on that defensive line. I think that's probably their most talented unit. I think that's probably one of the most talented units in the Big 12 overall. And that's going to keep you in a lot of games. But with the questions at QB, I am going to be a hater on Texas Tech at those odds. That's for sure.
Yeah, fair enough. Max, what are your thoughts on the Red Raiders? Are you kind of in the same camp as Ryan in terms of not being sold on them as a basically even money favorite to win the conference again?
No, I'm absolutely with Ryan. I think the odds are terrible. I would have handicapped in my completely non-professional handicap skill set probably closer to 3 or 4 to 1, and had BYU and Utah probably right where they're at, much more bunched, if you will. I don't understand it. I mean, Will Hammond's coming off an ACL. They're trying to sell it like he's going to be ready for week 1. Everything I read is like that's pretty aggressive timeline to get your QB back. Does he really need to be there for week 1 when you're playing Abilene Christian? Then you go into Oregon State. It's like you could probably get away with those 2. But then week 3, we're looking at probably the biggest game of the year for them, Houston in Lubbock on a Friday night. You're going to have all the media, all the spotlight, and Houston is a bit of a sleeper team in this conference. So I would agree with Ron. It's a little crazy to me that the odds are that far apart between them and BYU and Utah's of the world. Listen, AJ Holmes, preseason Big 12 player of the year. He's a D tackle at the end of the day. I love D tackles, but I don't know that I've ever seen a D tackle win that award since Ndamukong Suh. It's been a long time, I feel like, on that front when we're seeing edge rushers, and especially a team like Texas Tech with David Bailey being there last year. They go into the transfer portal, they get an Adam Trick and Austin Romaine, some of these guys that can come in and supplement, but I don't know that you're going to replace David Bailey necessarily. So for me, yeah, I think it's a little crazy. They don't have the quarterback support that I would like to see when I'm picking a team to win a conference. They got a hell of a running back duo in Cam Dickey and Jacoby Williams. Those guys are going to combine for 5,000-6,000 total yards, it feels like. But I think they're going to lean on the run game a little bit heavier this year. And that's run game and defense is great in the NFL. It's great to some extent in college. But the Big 12, it feels like it's spread them out, score 40 a game. And I just don't see the Raiders doing it.
Casey, you've done a lot of the research and stuff. What player at Texas Tech this year excites you the most?
I love their tight end, Terrence Carter Jr. I think he goes by, or Terrence Carter the second, but he's a really good tight end. He didn't have a ton of touchdowns last year, but he was a pretty good high volume receiver for them. I think he caught north of 50 balls and about 600 to 650 yards. He's a really good tight end. I think he's a great security blanket for whoever is under center. And look, it probably will be Will Hammond eventually. It might not be at the start of the season. I think Max hit the nail on the head talking about Houston and that kind of being the date on the schedule that Texas Tech has to be circling to try to get Will Hammond back. It's a Friday night in Lubbock. Houston we'll get to, but Houston is going to be a very dangerous contender in this Big 12 race, I think, with all the talent and production that they have coming back. So if it's not Will Hammond, I think that there's a good chance that Kirk Francis, the transfer from Tulsa, who I believe was a 1 or 2 year starter at Tulsa, solid enough, has some experience, hopefully won't shit the bed too bad against Abilene Christian and Oregon State to start the season. If he can bridge the gap to that Houston game and they can get Will Hammond back, that would be good enough. Ideally, Will Hammond comes back for Oregon State, get some reps in before they host Houston on that Friday night in September. But I kind of went sideways on answering your question. Terrence Carter Jr., the tight end, he's one of my favorite players. I also love a couple of the transfers that they got. Austin Romaine is a stud linebacker from Kansas State. I believe he was either first or second team all Big 12 last year at Kansas State. He decided to come join the Red Raiders, probably got a bag dropped on him to come basically replace Jacob Rodriguez in the middle of that defense. I also love that they went and got first team All-MAC player in Adam Trick, an edge rusher, to be there as a replacement for Romello Height and David Bailey. So I think the pass rush, they got another guy from San Diego State who should fill the other edge spot. So I love the way that they've plugged some of the holes on defense. I don't think that they're going to be quite as good on defense as they were last year, but I don't think we're going to see that defense fall off a cliff. I think that they've done enough in the portal. I think that they've developed talent enough on the defensive side of the ball. And look, this isn't the Texas Tech of the past where they're going to win games 63 to 56. This team can play defense. Defense is basically what took them to the college football playoff last year and the Big 12 championship last year. Sheil Wood is a pretty good defensive coordinator. They have the most or second most talent in the league on the defensive side of the ball. So defense, I agree with Max. I think the run game is going to carry them more this year. And that's the game, right? Talent, just raw talent, defense, run the ball.
Yeah, I look at their schedule too, Nard. You got Houston week 3, and that's it. I mean, there's not another team on there that scares me whatsoever if I'm Texas Tech. However, the flip side of that coin is you saw the success from last year. Obviously, Cody Campbell's pumping millions of dollars into this school. Everyone's probably a little bit butthurt in the Big 12, seeing that, hey, they're just buying rosters every year. They're the Miami of Texas, But at the same time, like, that's just how it is now. And you're ultimately becoming everybody's Super Bowl. So even if it's an easy schedule, some of these teams, I look at like Arizona State, Arizona, Oklahoma State, TCU, Baylor's got DJ Lagway now. I mean, there are just some of those games that if they're not focused, they're not there, and it's your opponent's Super Bowl of that schedule of that season. I mean, there could be a slip. I don't necessarily see it though. I think they easily cruise to the Big 12 championship game.
Yeah, that's fair. It's the Big 12. There's losable games. There's landmines on the schedule. But the nice thing for Texas Tech is that pretty much all their toughest in-conference games are at home. Houston is at home. Arizona State is at home. Arizona is at home. TCU is at home. The only road games they have this year, Oregon State, Colorado, Cincinnati, Oklahoma State, and Baylor. There's no real kind of scary roster of that group of 5 games. So they should be favored in all 5 of their road games, probably by double digits. So all their toughest challenges they're going to face in the friendly confines of Lubbock, Texas. And I think that works in their favor. And like you said, they won't see BYU or Utah till the very end of the season in the Big 12 championship in Dallas, potentially.
Yeah, imagine 5 years ago, 10 years ago, saying Texas Tech is the best team in the conference because of their defense.
Yeah.
I mean, that just sounds like,
right?
Yeah. Somebody would look at you in the bar and say, you're a fucking idiot.
I have one more question for both you guys about Texas Tech. 2 guys have already been mentioned, David Bailey, Jacob Rodriguez, both gone. They also lost Lee Hunter, Romello Height, and Caleb Douglas. That's 5 guys drafted in the top 3 rounds from Texas Tech. 9 guys drafted overall. This isn't Ohio State. This isn't Georgia or Alabama. Do they have the pipeline with the transfers and the money to just lose 9 guys and lose 5 guys in the top 3 rounds of the draft and just not really skip a beat?
Yeah, I mean, it's tricky because I think within the context of their own league, yeah, they are the Ohio State. They are the Georgia. They are the Miami or Clemson. They are the team that is going to reload and through the portal primarily, but they're getting good high school kids too now. I mean, because they're paying to get 5 stars, 4 stars. They're competing with Texas and Texas A&M because they've got that basically blank checkbook. So I think within the context of the Big 12, yeah, they are that big swinging dick that's just going to reload. Every year now, it's like, their top 3 offensive line room, top 3 defensive line room, top 3 linebackers, number 1 receiver group. Like within the context of the Big 12, yeah, they're buying the most talent and they are able to reload as well as anyone in that league. So I don't think they're going to be as good. I think Brendan Sorsby would have given them a ceiling that was a little bit higher than they had last year because they were limited at quarterback with Baron Morton. Without Sorsby, I think they're just going to be a good Big 12 team. But yeah, Texas Tech is that team now.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy to think about. You got Cody Campbell, you got Pat Mahomes, billionaire, a guy that makes, has a $500 million contract plus endorsements. I mean, they have so much money to throw at these kids. They're building new facilities, all this different stuff. I think of, he got game when he went to Texas State or whatever, and they're bringing women in and they're doing all this stuff. I mean, I think it's getting a little crazy at Texas Tech. They're just throwing money around and who knows what else. These kids are like, yeah, I'd love to come to Lubbock in the middle of nowhere. Nobody gives a shit about that place. But if you're going to pay me that kind of money and surround me with this kind of talent, yeah, okay. I'll come play ball for you.